Hey everyone, today I've got another exciting special guest, and this is going to be a topic for us ladies out there about body autonomy. So today I've got Shweta. After 15 years of working in the healthcare and ESL industries, she noticed an urgent need for ESL healthcare workers to learn the soft skills that create a successful and as a well-rounded professional. So as a lifelong educator and physician's daughter, she found healthy dynamics to equip the ESL healthcare workers with the tools and strategies to show up authentically, assertively, and articulately to gain credibility, validation, and respect in the workplace. So, Shweta, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Jennifer. It's a real privilege and honor. I always enjoy these interviews and the conversations that we have in them.
So, let's start by empowering everyone and defining what body autonomy actually is.
In very generic terms, bodily autonomy means that the patient in question is aware of how their body actually works and what are its pain points and what it really needs. And also, the patient is able to not only advocate for that, but also take control of what they want done to our body. Now, this is in a very broad sense. So, a simple example can be, a patient might be able to say that I don't want to take this type of medication because of this is the potential side effects. Now, medication can be more generic. It can be just pills. It could be even a vaccination because of these side effects that I am predisposed to or these things that have happened in the past. So they really feel that they need to have the agency and need to be able to make those choices in a confident manner without any sort of judgment or fear of not being granted what they want, and really being in charge of what their body is, what their body really needs. Now, when we go into the child-free territory, however, uh, there's an added layer. So obviously, for when we're focusing specifically on women's reproductive health, the pronatalist narrative is that a woman's body is designed to obviously house, obviously raise a child inside, not a child, but a fetus inside, raise and grow a fetus inside it, and also to give birth. So that is what pronatalism says. And according to pronatalism, women should really be making the most of the gift that they have been given. Whereas, nowadays we are living in a world now where women have a lot more choices with not only their careers and what they want to do with their lives, how they want to make money and all that. They also want to be in charge and have full control of what they want to do with their bodies, whether they actually want to use it to give birth, whether they also wanted to never give birth and hence get sterilized, and also sort of be aware of some of the reproductive conditions that they may have shown symptoms of at some stage in life, and really advocating for the treatment and adequate testing for that in order for the symptoms to not manifest when they get older, for example. So here I'm referring more to things like fibroids and adenomyosis and endometriosis and things like that. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because when I was younger, I had endometriosis,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess luckily it was bad enough to where they actually did something about it. So I got
Right.
lucky
Yeah.
in that.
Hmm. So, I mean, what I see or what I've really heard of in many, many instances, and I have made quite a lot of posts about this on my LinkedIn as well as videos on my YouTube channel, is that a lot of uh, healthcare professionals will actually not allow patients who are showing those symptoms to get a proper testing, diagnosis, and treatment because it may potentially interfere with their reproductive choices. So, what is quite frustrating and quite enraging as well is that they seem to think that every woman on this planet is that's what she wants to do. She wants to have children and she wants to give birth and whatever else. And that is number one. That's what they have to really preserve. Even if the condition might be, you know, fatal or the prognosis might be, it can be very dangerous to her health. That's what physicians or any healthcare professional will really put on a pedestal, that we cannot have these tests carried out on you no matter how how old, especially when they're quite young, because they don't want their reproductive choices to be to be affected in any way. And these patients unfortunately end up finding out after they've had their children and everything that they've had endometriosis, and it just flares, for example, and it just flares up every now and then. Had they got the relevant testing and diagnosis and treatment done in their early days, they would have been in a much better and healthier space in terms of their gynecological reproductive health.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
So, since many child-free individuals face the unique challenges and stigmas of not wanting kids, how
Mhm.
can we overcome these and empower ourselves to actually assert ourselves about our not autonomy confidently?
Mhm. I think, and I only last week or the week before, I did an interview for a magazine called Not Your Breeder, on a very similar topic like this, and I'm going to be actually posting that interview on my LinkedIn and YouTube channel tomorrow. And this is what even the interviewee, interviewer Lauren, she was asking me as to what patients can do. Well, the issue really is that what really needs to change is the mindset as well as the communication skills of the healthcare professionals in question. That is where the change really needs to take place. I feel it's really unfair that women or men, but mainly women, that it's really unfair that we in this day and age even have to give an explanation about why we are choosing to do certain things with our body. And
Hmm.
you have to give them a long-winded explanation to a healthcare professional and tell them, you can't just leave it at the fact that I just don't want to have kids. That's why I want to get sterilized. And in very, very rare instances, will that particular healthcare professional say, okay, that's really not my business. I will make sure that that's done. Uh, People have to go from doctor to doctor, or one provider to the next, to really see where they are heard and where they're not dismissed. There are so many stories out there, and even Lauren, who I just spoke about, she shared her story as well of how she was completely dismissed by a healthcare professional when she approached her with her request to get sterilized. He just said that I'm making the choice to not do this for you. And so what he's really done at that point is he's twisted the concept of pro-choice just the way and sort of twisted it to the way to in a way that is convenient for him. And the double standard that he was imposing is that he has a choice, but she doesn't as a
Hmm.
patient. So that's where it really needs to change. So keeping an open mind, and this is something I really coach my clients a lot on. That really put themselves in positions where they are sort of working with patients from all walks of life. So and not just patients who not just look the same and not the same age, but also a wide variety of conditions. And obviously nowadays in the workplace, everything is quite non-homogeneous and diverse anyway. That sort of gives them a picture of what the range of patients will also be like,
Hmm.
and really leave their biases and preconceived judgment out the door. But it is a long process. I can't, it's not just done quickly overnight, because these are very, very long held, deeply entrenched uh, beliefs and biases that all of us bring in this case, it's the healthcare professional. And because of the way of social norms and pronatalism and everything like that, and sort of really switching gears on that takes a lot of time, and that shift really needs to happen, and that's what I try to sort of give my clients the tools to actually really try to change that as much as possible. We should not be in a situation where any patient who is wanting to get sterilized or anything like that should be coming with stacks and stacks of documents
Hmm.
and giving like an elevator pitch of some sort to a doctor saying, or a long-winded explanation as to
Right.
why they want to get sterilized. The fact that this still needs to be done is it's just not acceptable. It should not be should be completely turned on its head in my opinion.
Absolutely. So, is it just the societal standards that have created their biases, and or is it also taught in medical school?
Uh, I think it's a bit of both. I think Yes, obviously in medical school, I've never been a doctor, and even my mother, who obviously she's a mother, but she's a big champion of a cheerleader of the child-free community, and she also finds it completely wrong and unfair that they will deny procedures that are like this. Now, if there's a situation where the patient is overweight or they have some sort of a pre-existing health condition and you have to make the patient safe and aware, that's totally different. That's what we call informed consent. That's part of it.
Mhm.
And that, again, I do cover that in a lot of my coaching and in my content. Uh, but and the interview that I had with Lauren last week, we covered the analogy that, if, say, I wanted to get plastic surgery done on any part of my body, and I'm in decent health and I'm in shape, no one will bat an eyelid. No one will say, no one will ask me any questions about why I'm having this done. Obviously, they will run through if there's a procedure that's being carried out, they will run through the risks, the hazards, the side effects, and everything like that. But I'm not going to be turned down just because they think that, we can't give you that access because of this and that.
Right.
But yet when it comes to our bodies, when reproductively specifically, they think that they have a say. And it's a lot of reasons that go into it. So obviously there's the bias may come from their medical studies, but also I think the main problem is that they feel that if someone like us, if we change our minds, they don't sort of want to be held responsible, and they don't want to be told that it is that we're going to sort of take legal action against them. And
Mhm.
uh, Lauren is not the only one. I have another child-free friend who lives locally. Again, I interviewed her on my YouTube channel, and she said the exact same thing, that she had to really go from hospital to hospital, and she was really dismissed after pretty much a 2-year battle was when she got the approval, and she's on the waiting list now to get the surgery. And I just don't think that should ever
Mm.
happen. Yeah.
Well, if they're so concerned about that, isn't there like a consent form or something?
Yes. Yes.
So
100%. So
shouldn't that be enough?
that's a standard procedure. So, for example, when I had my COVID vaccine done about 3 years ago, they had to do the same thing. They had to get me to read all this paperwork that informs me of what the side effects are and
Mhm.
what the procedure entails or whatever it is. And then obviously, if I'm happy, and they know what I'm getting myself into. That's very transparent. Then I sort of get the go ahead. And every single person is going to be given or goes through that procedure, regardless of what that step, regardless of what they're having done on themselves. But a lot of them think that that's just not sufficient, and it's just they have this bias that every woman wants to have children, and if I do this on her, on the patient, she's going to regret it eventually, and she may come back and take legal action, when really she is the one who gave the consent to begin with. So
Right.
yeah, so
That's
even the
so
possibility, yeah,
contradictory. Yeah.
yeah, even the possibility of the taking legal action, I don't know. I don't think that's even possible to begin with.
Yeah. And to even make that choice to not have kids, I mean,
Hmm.
we have done a lot of thinking about it to
Yes,
even get to that point. So
yes,
it's like we know ourselves better than
hmm,
a lot of other people. So
yes,
it just, I don't know. That's,
yeah,
and people wonder why we have to talk about being child free so much. Well, it's because of
yes,
crap like this.
yes, yeah, 100%. And even the discussion I had with Lauren last week was that she said that when, say, someone is giving birth, the medical professionals really go out of their way in most cases to help the patient out. They're not telling when they're helping, say, the patient deliver the baby. They're not going to tell a patient, "Oh, you're going to regret this. You might change your mind."
Right.
They think it's absolutely okay to do it when we are wanting to get sterilized, or we approach them with the reason to get sterilized. Yeah. But then again, now you have these resources where you have the big subreddit of doctors and healthcare professionals who will all over the world who will sterilize you without any questions asked. And a lot of my child-free friends have actually gone. They have used people who are the doctors who are in that list and have got their procedures done very successfully. It's never been an issue.
Yeah, the more I've been thinking about it since we first talked, um, before we set when we set up the interview and everything, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like I started thinking back more. I'm like, yeah, maybe I have been having some pushback
Mm-hmm.
because the most recent thing is I was wanting to get a hysterectomy. I mean, my
Mm-hmm.
grandmother had one,
Mm-hmm.
my aunt had one,
Mm-hmm.
and me and my sister both have endometriosis. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
like I was like, well, I'm not going to have kids anyway, so I might as well just scoop it all, I
Yeah.
guess.
Mm-hmm.
And we went back and forth a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
there were some good points. Anyway, so we kind of compromised and
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, let's get Nexplanon.
That's the IUD.
That's the arm implant.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it
Okay.
works well for my sister, so
Okay.
hopefully there was a good chance it was going to work for me, and it has.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, it has been a good alternative,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, it's like, hmm, would I still rather be sterilized? I
Yes.
guess yes and no. I guess it doesn't matter at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the more I think about it, I didn't have as much obvious pushback as a
Mm-hmm.
lot of women do because I am 37 now and this was very
Mm-hmm.
recent. But
Mm-hmm.
uh,
But even in that instance, again, instead of really hearing you out, the healthcare professional has just suggested, oh, just put you on Nexaplan. It just seems to me that they are making the decision for you
yeah,
without really saying that I just want something more. When you're telling them that I want something more permanent, not just because I don't want to have children, but also because I have endometriosis, they don't want to borrow it. So,
yeah. Well, I
mm,
also didn't have insurance at the time.
right. Okay,
So
that's a
so that was
that's a
probably
different, yeah.
yeah.
That's a different
And I'd be
situation
out
completely.
of work for so long and
Right. Oh
so
yes,
I couldn't just
that
be
is
out
one
of work.
downside.
So
Mm-hmm.
those were the two main reasons I hadn't done it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm to the age where it's like I'm gonna have perimenopause soon. So it's
Yes.
like, do I even bother at this point? I don't know. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's working for now, so I'm gonna go with it, I guess.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Just kind of stick to that. And a lot of child-free forums and places like we have Facebook groups and everywhere. There is so much talk on birth control, so that you can always get second opinion help and support because a lot of people are also in the same in the same boat as you. So they are
Hmm.
all sorts of birth control, whether it's an Exaplan or the IUD, and they're sort of sharing their experiences as well. So there's a lot of resources out there.
Yeah, I actually was reading those before I even
Mm-hmm.
decided to go ahead with that. So
Mm-hmm.
there's definitely some good resources out there for us,
Mm-hmm.
which is amazing.
Yes.
So how can we make sure we make the best informed decisions for ourselves?
I think self-awareness is a really big one. So obviously taking a good inventory of our our personality, our values, our temperament, our maturity levels, our patience levels, what we really need and value from life in order to even function on a very basic level.
Mm.
Like in my case, I know that for me to even function on a basic level, I need things that are just completely unaligned with motherhood, but which is the one of the main reasons I do not want to do it.
Right.
And so that's really the first step: being completely clear about the fact that you are opting out of parenthood altogether, and be confident in your choice. Take ownership of your choice, and don't feel the need to give anyone an explanation as to why you are making this choice, and also there's no need to justify it. There's no need to even qualify yourself. Like you don't have to say, I'm child free, but I love kids. I'm child free, but I respect parents. That's You do not have to put those caveats in. You are child free, whatever your reason is, it's totally valid. End of story.
Right.
And that is really the main thing. And And even when you go and approach a healthcare professional for getting sterilization, just stand your ground. Don't take no for an answer. And if there's pushback, obviously, if that's too distressing for you, there's that list of providers in on the subreddit where you have a big list of people who will actually do it. And there's also a group now on Facebook for that's called, and one of my friends, Janet, is the admin of the group. It's called Child Free and Seeking Sterilization, or Are Sterilized. So
Okay. Yeah,
uh,
and I'll put those links down in the description as
yeah,
well, so everyone can check
yeah.
that out. Yeah, so as a woman who is both child free and from the Indian culture
Mm-hmm.
and also living in Australia, I love this
Yeah.
combination. I just love it.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
bring a really unique cultural and geographical perspective to this.
Yes.
So share what your personal experience has been like growing up. And I've watched some of your other interviews, so I kind of know, but I love this. So I want you to
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
explain to everybody what your experience has been.
So yeah, there's tons of interviews I've done actually. The on my how I became child free, but in to really sort of cut a long story short, I have known literally since the second I came into this world that I do not want to have children, and there's a lot of reasons behind it. I think what I saw growing up in my family, my immediate family or my extended family. Yes, I come from India. India obviously is a highly patriarchal, highly sexist, highly conservative religious country, where motherhood is really the pinnacle for a woman, and also because of religion, that it really programs and brainwashes women from a very young age that their destiny ultimately is to become mothers and wives and caregivers and daughter-in-laws, and that's what you're prepared for from a young age. Uh, and I saw a lot of examples of that in my extended family as well, where I saw these women who were literally just giving every part of their life, their identity, they just didn't have a voice of their own. They didn't make their own money, and all they were doing with their lives was just running the house and taking care of the husband, taking care of kids, and taking care of his parents. Uh, I just saw really the lack of independence and freedom that they had, and that's when I realized that this just does not sound appealing to me. I just don't want a part of it. Fortunately, my mother, who, as you mentioned at the very beginning, she is a physician, so she's very career driven, and one thing that she has always instilled in me that I have to be financially independent. No matter what my career is, I have to be able to stand on my own 2 feet and not depend on a man or anyone else to look after myself. Really. And that I think set a very good foundation for me in terms of the fact that yeah, I mean even till date, I wouldn't say that I'm career driven, but I am a very fiercely independent person, and I do not want to give that up at any
Mm.
expense or at any cost. And then the older I got, I really started to question a lot of the beliefs and the gender norms and the social norms that I was being exposed to. Part of it was also being imposed on me, but these can be ranging things like, eventually I will. The dialogue was, eventually you will get married and you'll have this kind of life. And I just used to tell people when I was 6 or 7, no, I don't want to get married. And the other dialogue used to be about religion, that I was I wouldn't say that we were totally religious, but I did go through a period of going to temples and praying and everything like that. And again, at the age of 6 or 7, I told my grandparents, this is just bollocks that you're just worshiping. You think that something that's a picture or a statue is where God is, and we're expected to again pray and do all these things from a place of real fear and insecurity. Because if you don't do it, something bad is going to happen to you. Like how the Christians will say that if you don't do it, you'll go to hell. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
But also all this prayer, it was in a language that I did not understand. So I just thought to myself, well, why am I expected to do things that I don't understand? I don't know what I'm getting myself into. So again, for me, that was the other reason, because religion was such a big turn off for me. That also, again, made sense. And then over time, the reasons have really evolved. And, the age that I'm at right now, I'm also 37. There are plenty of reasons, but yeah, in very simple terms, yeah, I just don't have the maturity, the temperament, the selflessness, the patience levels, or that's needed, or the what the amount of sacrifice and the commitment that it entails. I just don't have that as a person, and there's nothing wrong in that. That's
No.
it's not everyone is the same. Let's be honest, a lot of mothers are like that too. So, and then obviously, for me, my biggest values in life are freedom and flexibility, and obviously that's does not align
Same.
with parenthood. And I just do not want the responsibility. I don't want the stress. I don't want the commitment, the burden, none of those things. I just want a much more. I want a simple life, but there should with a lot of freedom and flexibility.
Hmm.
Obviously, then there's also the element of antinatalism. So a lot of reasons have gone into it. But looking back at what my family's response has been, again, I told them when I was very young, I was 7 or 8, that I don't want to have kids, and they've been completely supportive. They've not said anything. We
That's
disagree on a lot
amazing.
of things, but this is one thing that they do not have a problem with. The reason being, obviously, I'm not the first child-free person in my immediate or extended family, so they don't find the choice unusual. So they're like, oh, my mom actually, she works with a lot of child-free people, so
That's
they
awesome.
don't find my choice unusual in any way. And even my extended family, they just don't. No, they don't bother. So so that way I'm lucky. And also living in Australia, where this choice is not quite acceptable, people just don't butt in your life with all these choices. That makes it so much easier as well to live here and really sort of be vocal about it.
That's so amazing. I got lucky that my family didn't pressure me too much. I don't know if it's because my sister already had a child.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I'm sure that helped.
mm-hmm.
But in general, I never got any pushback from my family, but his family I did. But
Mm-hmm,
I put a pin in that.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
Mm.
it's pretty bad. I have to tell them that I'd rather have an abortion than have a child to get the
Wow,
point
okay.
across. Like they would
Mm.
not stop bothering me about it. But
Mm-hmm.
never heard anything since. So
Mm. Yeah. I think there's a very funny meme that's going around at the moment that they say that people would normally say when you say that you don't want kids, accidents can happen, and my response is always so can abortions and miscarriages. So
hmm.
yeah, it's savage, but yeah, sorry, not sorry. It's the way it is. Again, with my partner's family, they have been also incredibly supportive. I'm very lucky that way. So
It's awesome.
no pressure on us to even get married, because again, that's not something that we'll be doing. So no pressure on us to get married or have children. So yeah, they just support us whatever we choose to do.
That's awesome because we're not getting married either.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. Yeah, no, no, again, no need for it. If you see the reason in it or point in it, go ahead and do it. But no,
Yeah,
there's just no need. We don't see the point, so we're not going to do
right.
it.
For navigating family and other societal pressures, uh, how can we empower ourselves to navigate and respond to these pressures while still staying true and aligned with ourselves?
So going back to what I mentioned earlier on is the concept of self-awareness. That if you are aware of what you want to do, who you are as a person, what you value, and what you stand for, just stick to it at all
Hmm.
costs. Do not be in a position where you have to give anyone an explanation or justification for your choice, and just don't let someone sway you. I mean, especially when women, straight women in particular, when they start dating and all that, it's very important to mention early on and do not let a man sway you, because that's what happens. A lot of stories that you hear is like, oh, I was child free for this many years until I met this man, and then lo and behold, they've had the child, and then they've split up after that. So
Hmm.
and that's probably another reason why they healthcare professionals don't take us seriously. And this is a huge, massive bingo that we get, is that what does your husband think, or what is your what about your if your partner wants kids? I also heard of another really ridiculous one. Again, for a lesbian woman who wanted to get sterilized, the healthcare provider was like, what if your sexuality changes?
Wow, we're going there
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, that is really what I would say. And the way that you've given a very good example of how to really shut down your in-laws, your partner's family, about when they're pestering you about giving them children. That yeah, so if you know again, don't, if you have to be sassy and savage and everything like that, just go ahead and do it. Do not worry about offending or upsetting anybody, because yes, this choice is against social norms, it's choice is against gender norms, it's against pronatalism, everything like that. And it can be isolating at many times, but the truth is, if you give in and have the child just to please everybody else, nothing good can come of it.
Oh,
Nothing good nothing good can come of it. No one will be happy. There's nothing positive that can happen for anybody. Yourself, everyone else, the child that never asked to be here. So yeah, I think having that self-awareness and just sticking to your guns and really getting support from channels like yours. I mean, I know for you, you work with child-free business owners such as myself, but there are so many communities nowadays,
hmm
online and in person. Like over here, I'm part of a child-free group for women in my city in Melbourne, Australia. About 900 members we have in that group, and
Oh, wow.
so and we meet up regularly. And I mean, it's not a place where we go and really air our grievances about parents and children. There's a lot of groups you can do that
Yeah.
in, and not that there's a problem with people doing it, but that's not the main purpose. But if you feel
Yeah.
like you're not understood by friends, family, and co-workers in the broader society, there is a lot of help that you have now, and there's a lot of support. And there's also a lot of coaches in the child-free area who will also be able to sort of support you in.
Ever since I pivoted my business to child-free business owners, it's
Mm,
it's amazing how many groups and resources I found.
mm, mm.
It's like they've been
Yeah,
kind of coming out of the woodwork now that I'm
yeah,
focused
yeah.
on that.
Which is interesting because a lot of the mainstream, like whether from marketing, whether it's for in any industry that you're in, marketing is always targeted towards families. But when I
Mhm.
say families, the normal family, and particularly mothers. Uh, Child-free people in general is a very untapped market, and there are so many people who can benefit from uh, you know people like us who are providing. Now, obviously, in my case, I work with everybody. It's not just child-free people.
Mhm.
So whereas but for some people, yes, 100%, it is more, it's such a market that exists. But again, we are just, as society, because we're just made to feel invisible, because we don't contribute anything meaningful to society according to what they think. We just don't matter. So
Yeah.
and that's why we sort of pushed to the sidelines. Whereas, without realizing that, yes, there is a lot that you can tap into. There's so much that we have to share in terms of our
hmm
gifts and in terms of our services. And people really need to open their eyes and look into that, and don't just be in the space of cognitive dissonance and just assume a lot of things just because we're child free. So again,
Right.
why?
So I know you mentioned LinkedIn and your YouTube channel,
Hmm.
which I'll also include down below. Is there anywhere else we
Sure.
can find you online?
Only these two mainly, just mainly
Okay.
the LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active these days, and the YouTube channel. So I post videos like once a week, and so I mean, really, I look at many different concepts of communication in the healthcare space. So obviously, the soft skills like active listening, showing respect, providing empathy, how to ask questions effectively, how to interrupt people speaking effectively. I go into etiquette. There's so many things, a big list of playlist as well that you can sort of watch as well. And yeah, so there's a lot of things. And a lot of people think that it's only for doctors. It's not. It's just for anyone in the healthcare space who works with patients. At this point, I'm not really sort of spreading myself thin and just targeting one particular field of healthcare. I'm just, offering to work with anybody in any space as long as they are working with patients on a regular basis, and ideally patients who are not just one and done, but also
Hmm.
patients who they consult with for a very, very, very long time. So because that's the kind of clients that I also uh, have and would like to have. Someone
Yeah.
who would like to work with me on a long-term basis.
Yeah, it's such an important topic. Thank you so much for talking about this with me today.
And yeah, thank you very much for having me, and always privileged talking about these things in all of the spaces. And also, you're doing incredible work in terms of time management and scheduling and prioritizing and building systems and all that. Again, for again a subset of the population that is completely untapped. So
Mm,
so that is
thank you.
incredible. So yeah, definitely keep up with the work.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'll put all the links in the description that we mentioned,
Hmm.
and let us know what was your biggest takeaway from the conversation today, and I'll see you in the next video.